sides. Yeah, from culture to faith, art to finances, politics and everything in between. We're taking chances. Jack, a TV and broadcast, we shine a light. Exploring all the life from day to night. Nothing is off the table, we keep it real. Diverse perspectives, the truth we reveal.
What's up, family? I want to welcome you to the Jackie Kemian podcast. Today, I got an amazing guest. I've known this brother now, probably it's been about 7-8 years since I met him at the Life Impact Center.
Yes, sir.
His name is Clinton K. Powell. And just in case you were wondering, that K.
Don't say it.
Okay.
It's a mystery. It's a
Okay,
mystery.
Okay. Well, just so you guys know, Clinton is he's a business coach. He's a leadership coach. He's a culture engineer. He is someone that has played a huge role at FPL, which is Florida Power and Light, and also at Evangel Church. That's where I met him when he was serving alongside of Madeline and Nigel Hundy. And I saw the influence he was having upon the young people, touching lives. And it seems that culture, personality, that Maxwell leadership, technical skills really touches everything he does. He's a mover and shaker in Miami. He's doing some big things, conferences. He used to do hip hop concerts. I think the only notable hip hop concerts I know of here in Miami, and having some big names, Lecrae, Truth, and all of those. Probably back in the days, Cross Movement too. So, but we'll get more into that, man. And he's also, most importantly, a father, a husband, and someone that loves God and loves culture and loves his people. Clinton, welcome to the Jackie King podcast. How are you doing today?
Pretty good, man, brother. Thank you so much for the invite. Looking forward to the conversation. As you was reading, you was sending me down some memory lanes. I forgot some things about that. Christian hip hop, yeah, I would say. Many people have told me recently, man, we missed those concerts and those tours you used to bring to Miami. So I appreciate you noting that.
Absolutely. And the thing I remember just noticing about the way you did things was you also have something that I don't think you talk a lot about is incredible marketing talents.
That.
I mean, not only are you constantly in people's face when it comes to social media and through word of mouth, but you also have great presentation.
Yeah.
When did you realize that you were built for touching people's lives, not just personally, but through production and through events and through conferences and concerts and seminars?
I don't know if there was a pivotal moment, but I can recall in undergrad, presentation was everything for me. So I attended Florida State University.
Okay.
But I also got to shout out Florida A&M March of 100 because I am a member. I was a member for Fall 2000. So shout out to both Rattlers. I know everybody's wondering, how can you do both? Back then, you was able to participate. College of Engineering, people don't know, is a shared school. So it's the FAMU FSU College of Engineering.
Wow.
So at that time, you were able to do, because of the dual enrollment aspect, you could do different programming. So I was able to be a part of the 100.
And your allegiances to which school?
Oh, I think the way how I just said it, academics, FSU all day.
Okay.
But when it comes to the fine art things, I have to represent FAMU.
Okay.
Now I'm gonna really mess you up. Now, you ready for this one?
Yeah.
I represent University of Miami heavy when it comes to football. So I'm a unicorn of some sort. The Seminoles know if UM playing FSU, I gotta go with the U.
And now, what is it about the U that takes preeminence?
So
when it comes to football,
I think it's more of a birthright, because when you grow up in Miami, and the culture of UM is a private university, so it's not that big PWI environment. It is really community driven, and it's tied to ministry, because when I was a youth, we did street ministry outside of the Orange Bowl.
Wow.
So, going back, shout out to my old youth pastor, Kingsley Grant.
Okay.
Because that was a part of our day to day, when we was young people, literally almost at least 2 or 3 home games out of the season, we would gather the young people and we would be out there and we'll be ministering the gospel. We did, as I think back, I don't think we understood the magnitude.
Yeah.
But for me to remember it now, 20, 25 plus years later, that signifies the impact that it had on me. So it's just that environment, being around the Hurricane fans. And to be honest, I really didn't get into football seriously until high school, college, because I was in the band. So,
Okay.
I'm Caribbean by trade. I mean, Caribbean born. So we didn't do a lot of sports unless it was football, the real football, as they say, and cricket. So coming here and understanding with baseball, basketball, and growing up, my father wasn't a big sports person, so I was not exposed to it until I was in the band in high school, and I'm learning the game.
Yeah.
I'm watching the game. I'm there. I'm watching every game, so
Yeah.
I have to learn what's going on. And then college, when I saw the energy around it,
Oh my
I had
gosh.
to represent. And another thing, a funny fact about Tallahassee, is very big on representing what city you're from.
Okay.
So being in Tallahassee, representing Miami, that the Hurricane connection was undeniable.
Now, did you ever get to meet what's the name? Lil Payne? Is it Lil Payne?
T-Pain.
T-Pain, yeah.
I actually have.
Okay.
I knew T-Pain. Oh man, so this is how God works everything out, right?
Okay.
I was a promotion guy in Tallahassee. I promoted parties. I managed DJs. So I was there when T-Pain was a part of a group, Nappy Head Boys.
Okay.
When
This before he blew up?
Before he blew up.
Okay.
He was a part of a group called Nappy Head. Then my close friends, he was learning how to DJ. So also, it's a whole DJ clique that I used to be hanging around with, because we used to throw parties, and I used to meet him off and on. And then there was another tastemaker, TJ's DJs, if I recall, and he was often there. And that was like a quarterly meeting for all the industry tastemakers with the music, fashion. People used to come, and Tallahassee was actually a hub. So
wow,
I met T-Pain several times.
Yeah, it's definitely like it's a Black culture hub.
Oh
right?
yeah.
And he talks a lot about it too. He does kind of a love-pain relationship he has, T-Pain with Tallahassee.
I could imagine.
And he feels like one of the podcasts I heard him talk about, like he just feels like the city officials, not the people, but the city officials kind of did him wrong, and kind of gets into that. Were you seeing some of that drama play out while you were there? Difference between where the people are at and where the city leadership is at, and how that's playing out with the culture?
I didn't really say the city leadership, but it was,
or even the school academic.
Yeah, you can see what separated Florida State and FAMU was a railroad track, literally.
Yeah.
So it's downtown. The story is FAMU, they gave FAMU the worst property, or the worst land in Tallahassee. It hides up the Seven Hills. It's very hilly. FAMU campus is very hilly. Unlike FSU's campus, is not a lot of hills. So that was the best opportunity for them to build the campus. And the story is kind of goes, okay, you guys can have that land. Nobody wants that land. And FAMU turned it into a beautiful campus. So you can see it's literally, when I was there, you cross the railroad tracks, okay, we're not in Kansas anymore. Right.
Yeah.
So, and they're considered the South Side. Florida State is considered the North Side.
Okay.
And if you look at a lot of the culture, anything South Side, it has a connotation of being negative.
Oh man,
the hood or the ghetto.
Yeah.
So you kind of experience that. But I definitely see that. And we used to always say, hey, don't play around TPD. That's Tallahassee Police Department. Don't play around TPD. We don't have the same rules.
Yeah.
So I've experienced some of that. And I would say, I used to say this when I was a youth pastor. I was in Tallahassee for 5 years.
Okay.
And I want to say I probably visited the county jail probably at least one time each semester for those 5 years. And different things happening. Sometimes it was either my friends or my colleagues. Of course, they were at fault. And sometimes it was racially driven, that some things had to get worked out in court. So I've experienced some things in Tallahassee. But one thing about Tallahassee, it's the people.
Okay.
I enjoyed my time there.
Southern vibes.
You know what? It's not really Southern vibes. It's its own utopia. It's similar to Miami. Yeah. We're not a part of the South. You heard the memes that say, "Hey, I'm not from Florida.
Yeah.
I'm from Miami.
Yeah.
So it's a similar connotation that Tallahassee, it's its own utopia. It's you do have some of that Southern hospitality, but since it's a more of a melting pot because of so many different students
Okay.
and so many people actually come to
Yeah.
Tallahassee and live.
It shapes them differently.
It shapes them
Well,
differently.
the thing is that because I've always noticed there was something fundamentally different about you, because when I came here from LA, I'm an LA boy.
Yeah.
And I could see that you have, it's like a fusion restaurant, right? It's like
Yeah.
I see the Caribbean, but then I see something else. And it's like as I've gotten to know your story a little bit, like, yeah, like you were definitely like, I mean, you left Miami, which is its own culture. You went to FAMU. You were, North Florida,
Yeah.
right? The where the Tallahassee is where there's power, right?
Yeah.
That's where the Florida, central power base is, politics, right? And so it definitely, I can see how it's like all these cultural experiences have shaped you into something hybrid. Like, do you feel different? Like, do you feel like you can fit in everywhere, but you don't fit in anywhere? Kind of.
No, I could definitely understand that sentiment because true story, it may not be a popular one, and I received some backlash when I say this. I intentionally chose Florida State over FAMU because I got accepted to FAM.
Yeah.
But I grew up in Miami Gardens, which is not Miami, it was Carroll City.
Back then.
And back then. And I attended Carroll City High School. So I was in a predominantly Black environment. And I didn't want to duplicate that. I said I wanted to get a different experience. So, and I knew so many people from FAMU, because of the band relationship, we would attend homecoming. That was an annual trip for me in high school. So I would see that. And I said I wanted something different. So I intentionally chose Florida State. Now, back up, I wasn't going to school at all. My dad is a mechanic by trade, so he has his own automotive and body shop.
Okay.
My oldest brother in the States, he followed his path. So I'm looking at, I don't want to go to school. I see my brother being successful, buying a house. This is back in the day. He was a homeowner at 21, 22, had multiple cars, and he was a technician working at a dealership. I see my dad start working in this yard, working on cars. Then he grew it into a business. So I said, well, I don't need school.
Yeah.
I'm following their footsteps. And it wasn't until a recruiter from the University of Florida challenged me. And he was attending my high school recruiting. And, I was in mechanic class acting up. And I told my teacher, hey, I want to go to that UF thing because I wanted to get out of class. And he said, get out of here, Joker. You don't even want to go to school, but I'll give you a break. So he told me to go. And I'm cutting up. I'm in the back of the cafeteria just having fun with my friends. And I think it was a God ordained thing because the gentleman called me out and his last name happened to be my same last name.
Wow.
So he said, come on, cousins, you my cousin. So he started calling me his cousin, and he brought me to the front because, I was being distractive.
Yeah.
And then at the end, he said, I need you to walk me out, help me to my car.
Wow.
And then he says, hey, I guarantee you, if you apply to University of Florida, I will get you accepted.
Wow.
I said, man, you don't know me. How do you even know I have the grades? And he said, for you to even articulate that, the fact that you need a grades requirement, that tells me you have grades.
Wow.
So that put a spark in me.
Wow.
That maybe I can go to school.
Okay.
And some other things happened that summer before that opened my eyes to school, So I think that was, how God leaves seeds and other people water. And at that time, my girlfriend was attending University of Florida. So I asked her, babe, you think I could? Of course, she was happy. Come to University of Florida with me. That just opened my mind. And I said, well, if I'm going to leave Miami, where do I want to go?
That's a man's dream right there.
You
went to school with your girl?
No, I'm going to tell you.
Okay.
She ended up going to University of Florida.
Okay.
Then I end up saying, I said, okay, if I'm going to leave, where do I want to go? I didn't want to go to Gainesville because I did my research. I said, oh, nah, that's definitely not
way
me.
Too country, yeah.
Way too country. Then I said, well, I've been going to Tallahassee, and I found out I could be in the 100 if I go to Florida State. So literally within a week or two, a light bulb shifted, and I went into college mode.
Wow.
And I missed the first application deadline for Florida State, and I applied. I still applied. No, I didn't miss the deadline. I'm sorry. Florida State already came to my campus to recruit, and I missed it. But my cap advisor was super supportive, had my back, and I applied for Florida State, and I got accepted by November.
Wow.
And that's the beginning of my story. So
for the spring.
No, I got for November. I got accepted for the following fall.
Oh, for the following year. Okay.
Yeah, for the following
year. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. So
this was your senior year, basically.
This is my senior year, and that's unheard of. Literally, I decided to go to school.
Well, they love that.
September.
They gave you some tuition break on that, right? Because you were early acceptance.
Well, back then that wasn't the case.
Okay.
But I was bright enough, thankfully, that I was able to get Bright Futures.
Okay.
So I had 75%.
Oh, wow.
So again, I turned off my parents, Caribbean parents, didn't have a college fund. And I just was determined that, hey, I don't want my parents to pay for money for school. And I knew we didn't have it. So literally, I became the scholarship king. I received I on private scholarships. I paid for my whole 5 years of school.
Wow.
Mm-hmm.
Wow. So you were the dude that was just filling out everything, telling your story?
Filling out everything. And my story was good because my freshman year, I didn't really apply myself. So I was a C student.
Okay.
My sophomore year, I was a BC student.
Okay.
And then I don't know what happened in my junior year, I became a straight A student.
Man, I mean, I could tell you what happened. Mm-hmm. I mean, it seems like you just realized, oh snap, I'm one of the brightest people in this room. I'm super intelligent.
Yeah.
I mean, it's obvious, man.
Yeah, I think, you know what? I think it was God aligning things that prepare me, because if you're a high school student, remember they look at your junior year as a pivotal year.
Yeah.
Junior year is your pivotal year. And I put in my resume, I told my story.
Okay.
That you can see, I told him in my essay, I wasn't that great. I wasn't focused, but now I'm focused.
Wow.
And I was able to get straight A's. I had AP classes. So that helped with my GPA. And then my senior year, I ended with straight A's again. So it was a really full circle moment, and that God really blessed the opportunity. And I had a ball. Attending Florida State was one of the best decisions I ever did in my life.
Man, that's amazing, man. That's amazing. And then you went there with the focus to do what? And then did your path change as you started dropping into the discipline?
Listen, can I tell you?
Yeah.
I was a straight failure my first semester.
Okay.
I went on academic probation after one semester because high school came easy to me.
Yeah.
So I never studied.
Yeah.
I did homework in class, or I kind of sweet talked my way out of doing homework to my teachers.
Yeah.
I was that, the teacher's helper. Clint, you're good.
Yeah.
So here I am. I'm getting dropped into a new environment.
Yeah.
I'm participating.
Competitive environment.
Competitive. I'm participating in Marching 100. So 2 different schedules.
Oh, wow.
And I couldn't really tell my professors, hey, I'm in the 100 for FAMU, so I'm not going to be in class. So that first semester, we traveled a lot. And if we drove with the bus. So if the game is Saturday, we went to, the game was in Indianapolis, rather. We would leave on a Wednesday. So we were leaving on Wednesday. So I'm missing classes. So I wasn't telling my professors, and I'm thinking I just have to show up. And when it hit me, I want to say we have 4 weeks left for the semester.
Yeah.
I went to my teachers like, hey, what can I do? Because that's what I did before.
Yeah.
What can I do to catch up, or what I need? I will literally go to class and just go to sleep so I could feel good. I went to class, didn't pay attention, didn't do anything. And I remember my chemistry teacher, he said, it was in our meeting, and he said, son, your highest test grade was a 25.
Wow.
And you took 3 tests already. There's nothing for you to do.
Wow. Unfortunately,
that's shock and awe right there.
You're not going to pass this class.
Wow. So you imagine failing half of your classes.
Wow.
Academic probation. So I went there for mechanical engineering in honor of my dad. I said, you know what, my dad fixes it, so let me create it. I wanted to, design cars. I was going to go to Michigan State. Didn't want to leave Florida. That was too far. Plus, it got cold. True island boy. Anything below 65, it's going to be a problem. But it was bad. It was literally one of the lowest points of my college days.
Wow.
And I recall calling my mom, telling my mom, Mind you, now my mom didn't want me to leave. She didn't want me to leave.
Like a good Caribbean mom.
She wanted me to stay home. I was the first child. You know,
Yeah.
my 2 older brothers, they went locally
Yeah.
to school here, right? And I was the first child. The third out of the 4. I said, "Mom, I'm gone. I'm leaving."
Adios,
And
amigos.
Adios. And my mom says all the time, when you have your mind made up, there's no changing it. So ended up leaving, and I told my mom, "Hey, this is what's happening. I told you shouldn't have gone. You need to come home."
Yeah.
Right? You need to come home. But can I tell you, and if you're listening, the importance of a father. I called my dad, and my dad didn't respond negatively at all. My dad simply says this: "You will be okay. You just need to adjust, and you need to focus. Stay."
Yeah.
Those simple words.
Yeah.
Those simple words.
Yeah, because right, moms are a blessing and they're vital, but they're nurturers.
They're nurturers.
They're always going to want to protect you.
Yeah.
And dads know how tough life is.
Yep.
So your dad, that was like, because really dads don't become relevant till you leave home, you know? And that's when you start appreciating your dad, because you realize how difficult it is.
You start seeing the things that he was trying to implement for you as a child, and then you recognize it.
Yeah.
Yep. So my dad told me, "You'll be fine."
Yeah.
So
and you adjusted.
And I adjusted. The next semester I got straight A's.
So tell me how that worked, because you are a FAMU marching band, basically. Did you have to like take courses? How did you have to take a few classes there, or was it
because of the major?
Yeah,
I didn't have to take anything on FAMU because the College of Engineering is joint. So even though I was not, even though I was not taking the engineering course, I was taking prerequisites. My major was listed as engineer, which fell under that school.
So it satisfied FAMU, but you also were getting FSU.
Yeah.
Degree.
So my degree says Florida State. So each of the students, whatever the major university, my classmates, they attended FAM, is not of FAMU, FSU College of Engineering degree. No, it's whoever is the entity that you registered with.
Yeah. Did you end up taking any courses at FAMU?
No, I didn't take any courses at FAMU.
Okay.
All my courses, because I was an FSU student, all my prerequisites.
Okay.
But I was there all the time because practice was at 3 p.m.
Yeah.
And they tell you take all your courses beforehand to the best of your ability, because if you're a freshman and sophomore.
That's an interesting partnership they have.
Oh yeah, and they had that with the architecture.
Yeah,
they had that with some of the media stuff. So I'm not sure where it stands today, but back then, and you can't do that now.
Their law school is pretty preeminent.
Florida State or FAMU?
FAMU.
Yeah,
it's in Orlando, and I was even thinking about getting another secondary degree in law. And I mean, I was surprised how affordable it is. It's like 19,000-20,000 a year.
Yeah, so FAMU law school, listen, I'm not trying to turn this to that level, but it's very good.
It's their strength, I think.
It's one of their strengths. So FAMU, they're known for the SPI program, which is their international business program. They're known for their pharmacy program.
Yeah.
They were known for their engineering. They were known for law. FAMU also had a med school. People don't know the history of it. So everything that Florida State, have now, FAMU had, but they, the politics of the game.
Yeah.
They were removed from FAMU. FAMU Law School was forced to go to Orlando. They couldn't be in Tallahassee. And I don't want to speak too much because I don't recall all the details.
Wow.
But that was one of the reasons why.
Interesting.
That they moved to Orlando because whatever that deal with the board of trustees, and I don't want somebody to fact check me, tell me you're wrong, but I don't recall the details of it. But when I was in undergrad, that was what was communicated to us.
So what happened with you and your girlfriend? Did you guys stay together, or is she your current wife? Like, what's the story there?
Actually, we ended up breaking up.
Okay.
We broke up. She graduated from UF, and I stayed at Florida State, and then we just went our different ways. That's a great point. That sometimes long distance works, sometimes it doesn't. That was a situation where the long distance, even though it wasn't long distance, it was an hour and a half.
Okay.
I would drive to Gainesville.
For a college student that's broke, that's like
listen, that's what I'm trying to tell you.
Yeah.
But I think it goes to my personality. When I'm focused and I'm dedicated to something, I'm gonna put it all in. So I'll put in the effort, put in the time.
Poor girl, she probably felt so ignored by you.
Yeah, but you know what? It was connectivity, and That's when I first got my cell phone. So these kids right now, my son is asking for a cell phone.
Yeah, yeah.
And I tell him, listen, I ain't get my cell phone until I was in college. You need to relax.
Yeah.
But times have changed a whole lot. That was my first
which is why you probably were able to focus. Because man, imagine, do you know I feel sympathy for these kids, man, because to have a cell phone in middle school, how are you supposed to focus on an algebra assignment?
And here's the thing too.
I mean, they got ChatGPT now, though.
Yeah, that too. At least in my house, I let them, so I can control. They will use my phone, so they will have their kids have one of my cell phone numbers. So that's fine. So I could at least. But you only could talk Friday, Saturday, Sunday. Only in the weekends. That's the only time you can play video games. Friday, Saturday, Sunday.
Okay, that's smart.
Monday through Thursday, it's school. That's your number one priority. If you want to play, use the games that's in the house. Use creativity in the house, right? And I'm gonna hold off as long as I can. I have some of my family members, just get them a phone. No, my son is very smart. He's a young hacker, so he's gonna figure something out. He loves technology. So if I do give him a phone, I'll probably have to give him a flip phone or something, just because you just needed to talk, you needed to text, you don't need anything else. He continues to eye my old phones. Daddy, what you gonna do with that phone? It's just sitting there. So I just try to protect them as much as I can. And because social media, you see the state of Florida with the law that's been passed 16. So that's telling us something, right? So for the government to want to intervene and to see the other nations, how they treat social media and they don't expose their kids. Hello, America. We need to wake up that if too much freedom is not freedom. But that's another conversation for another day, right? So I'm gonna protect them as long as I can. I don't care what nobody else say. It's my boys. I'm protecting them. I have to do what's right for them so they could be the best young kings that God has created them to be.
Absolutely, absolutely. So at what point? What was your girl journey like in college, and at what point did you meet your current wife, and how that emerged?
Oh man, that's a separate pod right there.
Don't say anything that's going to get you indicted now.
So my dating journey was interesting. I really thought Caribbean folks, we think we're gonna get married young. That's just either you get married young, you start having babies young. I wasn't trying to have the babies before marriage, I just saw what that looked like. So my dating journey, I really thought I was going to meet my wife in college. I really did, but it didn't happen for me. So I dated some in college, never really connected to that point where it was a really steady. Came back home, dated a few young ladies as well. I didn't meet this is the interesting part of meeting my wife. We attended the same church, but I never knew who she was. So literally, I knew her brother, I knew her sister, but I didn't know they were related. I had a really good relationship with her brother, her oldest brother. I had a good relationship with her sister. Had no idea she existed. She says, "Oh, you never paid attention to me," because she's younger than me. She's the same age as my little sister.
Oh wow.
Not little. I don't want everybody to think it's too little. It's not. My sister can be 45. She's still gonna be my little sister. But so I had a fashion production company. So it kind of goes back to that looping of, a presentation, things of that nature. So I had a fashion production company, and my wife was actually one of my models. So that's when I first got introduced to her. She was in a relationship, and then I made the 2 and 2. Oh, that's your brother, that's your sister. Oh, Clint, yeah, we've seen each other, but I had no idea. So fast forward some time, and this is the funny part. We were at a mutual friend's birthday party, and I tell the story all the time. And I'm on the stage with the DJ, so everybody's on the dance floor. And as I'm looking out to the dance floor, I see this young lady dancing. I tapped my friend, "Who is this girl?" And they said, "Oh, that's Sophie." That's my wife, Sophia. That's Sophie. I said, "Sophie, who?" They said, "That's Sophie." So I jumped off the stage. I went to the dance floor and I started dancing because I knew her, right? She modeled for me. So I knew her. And that night, I've had her number in my phone for maybe a year and a half. Never used it. I don't recall saying hi. Don't recall how you doing. Never used it. That night, I used it. I said, "Hey, text me when you get home. Just want to make sure you get home safe." You know how you got to do it, the grown man stuff. And I saw her the next morning because the next morning we was at church, and she laughed at me. She said, "I saw you send me that text message, And I said, yeah, I'm just trying to. She said, all of a sudden you just texted me. I said, yeah, I'm just trying to, making sure
Oh,
you good.
she's okay. She's
So she's
alert.
catching on. She's
Yeah.
catching on. So that just sparked something for us.
Nice.
And we just started having conversations. We went out, a cup of coffee
Yeah.
stuff, real simple things, and we started dating.
Okay. And you were how old at this time?
I want to say
Well, I'm thinking
27.
27. Okay. Okay. So you're very mature.
Yeah, I was 27, she was 21.
And you were already kind of in your career?
Oh yeah, I was in my career. I
Okay.
started working for FPL at 23.
Wow.
So
Wow.
I was in my career, had my own condo. I was living life. I was a independent young Black engineer. At that time, I was with the company 4 years. I was doing stuff in the music industry. I was doing stuff in my fashion company. And literally, but I felt that itch. Like, okay, I'm ready to settle down, but I couldn't find
Okay.
the right one. And Sophia came into my life, and then
when did you know that she was going to be the one? Was it that night when you started dancing?
You know what? It was.
I do believe in love at first sight. Like boom.
Yeah, I think
you kind of know.
I think it was. Oh man, it was one time. I want to say we went out to dinner of some sort, and we came back to my condo, and we was hanging out, and something to the nature of, oh yes, I think I just had a bad day.
Okay.
I just had a bad day. And she did something that I felt safe. She put my head in her lap. She started rubbing my head, and she started singing.
Wow.
And my wife has a voice. She used to be a worship leader.
Okay.
So from that point, that was like, oh my gosh.
That's wife material.
Yeah. She made me feel safe.
Yeah.
And I'm in love with her voice. I think she sings like an angel. And she just rubbed my head, and she just calmed me down.
Okay.
And at that point, I was like, oh my God. Now, as a man, you kind of get scared because now, hold up, this is real now.
Yeah.
You get kind of scared. Okay, this is real. Oh man. So that was for me, that was the inclination of, okay, this may be the one. So we dated for 2 years, and I asked her to marry me, and 6 months later we were married.
Wow. So at what point do you guys both kind of realize that you're called to be leaders? And you guys start this kind of leadership journey that morphs into now for you coaching and culture setting and working with CEOs and business owners. Like what point did you guys, a lot of couples are getting married and dating, and for them it's about going on a trip to Orlando or Naples or like they're you know what I'm saying, like they're ultimately, and there's nothing wrong with that, right? You should enjoy yourself. God's given to you all things freely to enjoy, but I sense a high level of mission. And not sense, I've seen a high level of mission that would just like blow a lot of people away. I mean, the work ethic is just beast mode. I'm thinking, at what point did you realize you're called to work and to lead and to impact people, and how does that begin to shape up into where you are now?
So I mentioned that in my book that I wrote a few years back, is Who's in Your Backyard? How to Identify and Develop Multi-Generational Teams. So I wrote that as a result of youth pastoring and my experience there. But what I said, that I think life leads you breadcrumbs of what you're supposed to be. And I've been in leadership roles since elementary, and that has been a part of my DNA. So my wife has been a leader her own right, with the church and working with young girls before we actually got together. But I think it's having that conversation, because I told her when we first got together, I said, listen, if you're going to be with me, understand who I am. I'm not a 9-to-5 guy. I'm not a guy who's going to go to work with his lunchbox, clock in, eat his little sandwich with the apple, clock out, come home, sit on the couch and watch TV for the rest of the night. That's not who I am. I'm a mover and shaker. I know God has called me to greater. I may not know the details of what that is, but I know God has called me. And I also said, I believe I have a call of ministry over my life. I don't know what that may look like. It may be pastoring, it may not be pastoring, but I do know that God is going to use me in a different and mighty way. So we had that conversation. I said, "Are you okay with that?" And then she said, "Yes." And you start going to that journey together. But my time pastoring and leading, because even just little things, I was the band president in high school. When I went to FAMU, I was the freshman section leader of my section. It's like every place I've been, it seems as though I elevate to a leadership role. I was a part of an organization, Progressive Black Men in Undergrad. I started off as a membership chair, became the chapter president, then I became a national VP of the organization. So it's always something that just drives me. And a lot of times too, people recognize certain things in me, even when I try to deny it. Those doors open. So my experience from the nonprofit, me running a production company, spending time with one of the local record labels here, all of that has always fueled me to that level of excellence in presentation and to be able to lead and to organize. So I think for me now in the coaching space, that came, if I'm quite honest, this came as a result. I was frustrated with the local church. And I said, okay, God, how can I still use the talents you've given me? And I came across coaching. So I said, I know people always come to me, Clint, I need help. And I didn't put the term coaching to it. It was, I'm just helping people. People will come to me with their problems. I sit them down and I figure out their problems with them and then give them a roadmap and keep it moving. So in that time when I was frustrated with the church, I said, man, God, I don't want anything to do with ministry right now. But, guys, God is so funny. He's just going to take you right back wherever you try to avoid. He's going to figure it out. So that's like I introduced. So I started learning. I said, okay, what is what I'm doing? What is the technical term for it? I'm a part of a greater whole, and I found out it was coaching, development, and I went on a journey. What can I do? I looked at maybe do I need to go to University of Miami for their coaching, and I ran into John Maxwell and his content, and that's how I became a Maxwell team member.
Okay,
that was 2019.
Wow.
2019. So I joined the Maxwell team, went through his certification process, attended his events. I was able to go to Dominican Republic with him. He does international. John Maxwell is a machine. I don't think people understand the machine that's John Maxwell. He's in his 70s. And this is encouragement to everyone that's listening. And it's encouragement to myself as well. Age is just a number.
Yeah.
The magnitude of impact that Maxwell has achieved has happened after 60.
Yeah.
I want people to understand. He speaks at the UN. Nations calls him in for personal coaching. So a part of the Maxwell Foundation, he has this thing called roundtable discussions, and is this transformation trips. So he will go to a nation and he will take with him 200 to 300 of his coaches, and we will go into the community and do training. Wow. So we did this in Dominican Republic, and that he must be invited in. That's the key, because the president, the parliament has to invite him in because they are responsible for the safety of the coaches. And literally we are bused to the different parts of the country. So if he's done Costa Rica, he's done Panama, he's done DR, he's done it's a small island off the coast of Australia, Papua New Guinea.
Wow.
So he does this every year. That's one element he does. So I was blessed to go on this trip with him to DR to see the machine. And that's one thing, because I'm a machine guy. I want to, because I'm a builder. Yeah. So I'm a builder. So I'm always looking to see, okay, how did he organize this event? How does he organize the structure? The whole 9 years. But it was a blessed thing. So that's why I started my coaching journey. And I really started, I wanted to work with, he brought me right back. I wanted to work with the local church,
which is what he does, and corporates, and he works with government.
But so many people doesn't know that he was a pastor for several years. Yeah, very successful pastor.
Yeah, San Diego.
Yeah, and he retired, and he lives. He has a house down here. He used to go to Christ Fellowship, in Palm Beach.
Yeah, he speaks there sometimes. I was studying him in Bible college in 2001.
Yeah, he's a.
Yeah, when I was at Life Bible College, now Life Pacific,
Mhm.
they had us studying Maxwell, and I love his writing style because he's parabolic, like
Yeah,
a lot of analogies and stories,
and
which
it's
yeah,
it's beautiful because just like
yeah,
Jesus, very simple.
yeah, but
Mm.
profound. Like he
Yeah.
had a huge impact on me, I remember when I had a church plant in LA, I took my leaders to the book Leaders Developing Leaders or something like that. I forgot. I have several of his books, 21 Laws of Irrefutable
Yeah.
Leadership, and but the thing that really captured me was that leadership is about developing leaders and working yourself out of a job, which I did as a youth pastor.
Mm.
On Maxwell's impact, just so you know the impact he's having on me, is when I became a pastor in Glendale, California, which is right by Burbank
Mhm.
and Eagle Rock and Pasadena. I literally went in there, and 7 years later, when I left, me and my wife left, and we came to South Florida. We had about 12 to 15 young people that were training for pastoral
Oh wow.
apologetics. They become professors, Christian teachers in my same alma mater. They end up going to the same school I went to, partly, and some went to Biola and Talbot and different schools. But the whole thing was that our goal was to develop these youth
Yeah.
to become leaders themselves and to discover their calling and to have an impact on the local church and community, and help shape their mind and to basically make ourselves irrelevant. But the relevancy comes in now you're developing leaders who
Yeah.
are also developing leaders. So, but like you too, I became frustrated with the local church, and I think I got into counseling partly because of this passion to work with people and help them get out of trauma and addiction and relational conflict, especially married
Yeah.
couples, and to get them to a place of healing, which for us at Impact Family Christian Counseling, it's beyond just healing. It's now we're moving into getting some of these couples and individuals into certain certifications and training so they can become lay peer
Ah,
counselors.
got it.
So it's moving beyond just addiction and therapy to actual, like, the Jesus model, which is to go make disciples
Disciples.
out of disciples who can make disciples.
Yeah.
So we have to think, how do we, Ephesians 4, how do we empower people to go beyond just healing from their wounds, but becoming healers of other
Other
people's
people.
wounds?
That's
And I
good.
see that spirit in you, and I could see how uh youth pastors, I think, all go through this. I did. When I met you, when I first landed in Miami, I left LA, and I basically, my success was my demise. Because
Mm.
if you know anything about churches, right, and youth pastors and senior pastors, sometimes if the youth pastor becomes bigger than life
Yeah,
and
it's
bigger
some
than the
tension.
church, it can create a lot of fear and tension. Like,
Yeah.
wait, how is this guy, you know, popular? And I wasn't seeking that, but I it's a David and Saul, it's
Yeah.
the politics. So when I came, I was just like traumatized, like, man,
Mhm.
I'm here as a missionary, but I don't want to have nothing to do with churches and senior
Because
pastors.
but you guys did have, because I think I met you at the tail end when you was having church at North Miami, right?
Yes, but I did that. I planted that church out of financial necessity. Meaning,
Oh,
like, okay, so I came out here and I wanted to be a missionary. I wanted to start my website company, and I wanted to just, I always see myself as a missionary church planner, but starting micro churches
yeah.
where the pastors are bivocational,
Hmm.
and we're meeting in homes, meeting in halls, meeting in whatever spaces. We met at the Life Impact Center for a while,
Yeah.
but meeting in, but keeping it where it's just you can focus on the delivery and development and get away from managing a building and
The whole
production.
business
Yeah,
aspect of it.
because that is a calling,
Yeah.
and you have to be kind of an executive corporate CEO kind of pastor
Yeah.
to do that. My thing is, if I'm going to be a CEO, I want to run a business,
Yeah.
so I can scale and make money and not have to deal with the bureaucracy of church life. Because a lot of times you have people making decisions who shouldn't be making decisions in church context.
Now that'll
And
preach.
yeah, and a lot of mega church pastors are really CEOs
Oh yeah.
and
And that's the only reason why
apostles.
they're mega church, because they CEOs
Yeah, because they know how to create structures
and they know how
and
to scale.
they engineer how to scale. But eventually, that's it. They all end up, because the church is not built for that kind of mega corporate structure.
Mhm.
It never ends well, at the end of the day. Like, you got the pastor of Calvary Chapel that it didn't end well for him. He built the church here in Fort Lauderdale. Forgot his name, but you find a common Willow Creek, Tony Evans, the pastor of Gateway Church.
Yeah.
Because these are apostolic leaders who should be running businesses like Paul the Apostle and planting organic small churches with elders and deacons that are just everyday, lay volunteer pastors. So I have a whole philosophy of ministry that has reshaped me because of these experiences, and even the stuff I've seen. We're being really close to pastors here, getting close to Nigel, seeing some of the struggles he was going through. And it's a common theme. The church is not built, and the stuff that happened after Evangel, with that, I knew when with the new pastor that came in, and I'm sure you were insider in that, and that's a whole podcast right there. We should just blow that can of worms open and have a conversation about what happened at Evangel Church.
Yeah,
and break down.
I know people will. What people have been asking me, and
that's going to be our conversation.
The funny thing about it, when I'm ready to share that, God has to release me. The funny thing is,
when he does, I want to do the podcast. I want to be like Club Shay Shay.
Yeah.
I want to bust it open here.
That in itself, right there, many people have been asking, and I've heard God very clearly say, "Shut your mouth."
Yeah, it's not. Well, at some point, I think you can articulate.
No,
in a very objective. What's the lesson to be learned here?
Correct.
Pastors who resign and just
so I use it a lot in my teachings.
Yeah,
I don't go into details, but I use it a lot in my teachings or trainings.
Yeah.
If I'm working with pastors, these are some areas that I will tell pastors, hey, this is the reality. How would you, and I remove names, how would you handle this situation? So I have used it
in case studies.
In case studies. I have used it in case studies that to be beneficial. But yeah, that's just a crazy, but I think, you know what it is too? I just think that the sin element is real.
Yeah.
Right. And in the midst, I've heard, I think his Pastor Philip, his name is. I heard a clip or I listened to a sermon. And we know this as pastors, but I think the way how he preached it, it was so passionate. It was a great reminder for me. I think we just need to get back to just really hating sin and not the people. Hate sin, because it's those names that you mentioned is not them, it's the sin.
Yeah.
Right? When somebody falls, it's not them, it's the sin.
Yeah.
When we all fall short, it's not us, it's the sin. If you, first of all, I tell people, it's two people. If I tell you, Jack, that, hey, you're called to ministry, I want you to be a pastor, and you reject that and say, nah, I'm not built for that, I want you. But the person who says, yeah, I want it 100%, I'm leery of those individuals.
Yeah.
Because what's the true heart posture? Because if you really understand the weight of that mantle, you would be running.
Oh yeah.
Because you think people think it's just a platform. It's a microphone. You don't know the battles Monday through Saturday.
Behind the scenes, man.
Monday through Saturday. That's you and your wife, you and your kids, your family. You don't understand the stress and the battle.
It's like giving birth every week.
Every week.
Going into Sunday service.
It's like,
and then after the service, it's like
you're so depleted, and that's the reason why we saw so much. Because I used to tell, and someone told me this, and I realized it. Be careful when you just finish ministering, because you are depleted so much.
Yeah,
that's when the sin comes in, and we have to learn to hate the sin. So I think that has helped mature me.
Yeah,
and I have put things in perspective for me, that I will hold you accountable for your actions, just like you hold me accountable. But I have a different compassion now, because I just need to hate the sin, because of our flesh, because of things that we battle against. I don't think if you really a Bible believing, Jesus loving Christian, our nature is not to be intentionally trying to sin. So if I keep that in context, right? If I know you declared and the fruit is there. It's not your intention, but is that battle, that war?
It seems to me that you have a very intimate approach to coaching and working with leaders from all backgrounds. How much of that was shaped by the great leaders like Kingsley Grant? I know he himself is. I mean, I talked to so many people that he's impacted. Madeline Hundy, Nigel Hundy. How much of that shaped you? That personal touch, because you seem to have a personal touch and not just a distant kind of you know, a distant kind of institutional model.
Yeah, I think you have to have compassion for people. You have to have compassion for people. I spent majority of my life attending one specific local church, good and bad. I've seen it all, right?
Yeah.
I've seen it all. And one of the things that I used to get frustrated with is, what's that 80-20 rule?
Oh, yeah, the Pareto principle, yeah.
Yeah, so it's
20% do the work, 80%.
well, not even only that is the 20% that you don't have, that you make it seem as though it's the 100%, and then you don't realize you have so much available to you. That 80%. A lot of times people come and talk about that in relationships, but in my tenure there, so you have a Kingsley Grant I was just talking about him earlier prior to come here. He was very influential not only in my life, but for many. Like, he was a youth pastor for over 20 years, if I'm not mistaken. He was a staple in the community. He can have, like, literally, if Kingsley right now says everyone that ever attended one of my youth services, it would be thousands upon thousands of students. Wow. of all these years. So what I learned from Kingsley, it would be his dedication and being able to steady the path. I don't know why he stayed for 20 years. The average youth pastor lasts 2 years. The study shows that after 2 years, they're gone. But you stand for 20 plus years. To me, that's dedication. To me, that's obedience. Even if God, you've been wanting to leave, but God said not now. So I can take that, right? And his consistency. Then I look at Pastor Hundy. Pastor Hundy was very compassionate to people.
Yeah.
He was very compassionate to people. He loved people. He will walk. He was one of him. And I will also say Pastor Meadows. He was one of the pastors at ECI. I recall Pastor Meadows. It was this thing called Royal Rangers, which is synonymous to Boy Scouts, but Royal Rangers for the Assemblies of God.
Yeah.
We used to do camping trips, and Pastor Meadows, now he's this white pastor, and majority of his church at this time, is black kids. So you hanging out with us, you sleeping in the tent with us. What does that tell a young person?
Yeah.
Right? That you care.
Yeah.
And that you're vested. And then when I accepted the call to ministry, Pastor Hundy was my pastor.
Wow. And
when I said, okay, I felt this, and I texted him and I said, I need to have lunch with you. I think we ended up having coffee or something to that nature.
He loved having coffee.
Yeah. So, and I talked to him, and I told him this. I said, I would do whatever you want me to do. I just don't want the platform. My exact words. I will work behind the scenes. I just don't want the platform. I don't want to be on the platform. And then he said, okay, no problem. Later on that night, he texted me, if you're serious about the call of God over your life, meet me tomorrow morning for the 8 a.m. service. I need you to help me do announcements on the platform. I said, this man don't listen.
Yeah.
The one thing I told you don't do, he pushed me out there. And that's how I started ministry. And it was, hey, help me do announcements. Hey, help me pick up the offering. That's how my ministry. And then, God used some of the things. I love history, and he used my love for history to send me back to school, because I got my master's in Christian studies. I wasn't going to go back, but it was my love for history. It was this gentleman that came and spoke to. He had a doctorate in, I think his New Testament studies. He was talking so eloquently about the Bible and the New Testament, speaking in the Greek. And I said, man, I love that. I want that. So God used that to kind of push me and for me to go back to school. But it was always a love-hate relationship. I was running away from ministry. My professor said, why are you here? I don't know. God told me to be here. And that's what I used to tell my professors.
Yeah.
I don't know. God told me to come here. I don't want ministry. I don't want it. I don't want it, And because of those things is a compassion for people. And I realized in coaching, you need to be able to relate and to be relatable.
Yeah.
And you need to learn how people are receiving and how they respond. And for you to be willing to be coached, you have to be vulnerable.
Look, I'm going to tell you something. Pastors who've been engaged with people like you have, especially part of a local church, and have seen all the craziness and all the triumphs and blessings, people getting saved, people's lives changed, disappointments. They make some of the best coaches, counselors, and therapists, because they not only understand the practical, but they really understand the emotional and the spiritual.
Yeah.
In a way that it's like, you know how the church historically has developed some of the best musicians,
Yeah.
jazz artists, rhythm and
R&B
blues
artists. Yep.
It's just something about every week being in community, right? Being, you know, having to be at church 6 a.m. and 4 a.m. on Easter, like, and doing life with people.
Yeah.
That makes you so much more than just a license and certification. You know, or a musician who studies in an institutional environment and then has to do maybe some internship versus someone who did it organically for free.
Yeah.
And then went and got the certification and the theory, and then eventually is paid. There's an appreciation for the payment.
Yeah.
You know, because you know how it is. You know, do something and it's really costing you your own money.
Yeah. And
then now to be paid for it and to be rewarded, I'm sure you are richly as a coach and as someone who's investing and consulting people. But there's something, and I think Maxwell has that, right?
Yeah.
There's something about, you know, working from the grassroots up. And that's why I find that pastors who sometimes are stuck in their calling don't realize just how developed they really are for sales, consulting,
you know what?
coaching,
Man,
and they don't. That's gonna be podcast two. I know, because I know you got to go, and I want to respect your time. Trust me, because I think we can talk for hours. But man, you got the last word.
I would say this too. One of the keys to success, and one of the keys is, because I don't want to come across too, because I'm far from perfect. The key to success is failure.
Yeah.
But being able to fail forward and fail quickly.
Yeah. And
as a coach, you are teaching people how to fail. Because if you look at all the greatest individuals you could think of, they all had a history of failing.
Yeah.
And we need to redefine that, and we have to be comfortable with failure. And I will continue to speak to myself about it. And every level you go and attain, you have to redefine what failure is for you and get comfortable to that level. Mm. Because when you make your first $100,000, I remember when I first crossed $100,000, I was like, oh my goodness. And then it became like I was making $50,000. You see what I'm saying?
Yeah.
So it's always different levels, and then you have to figure out, okay, what's next? And it's that failure thing. So I definitely, my last closing words would be, I love the local church. The local church is needed. For my pastors out there, for my leaders out there, there is so much you could do in addition to. Mm. There's so much you could do in addition to. I'm a firm believer now, and I think the industry, and I call it the industry, has shifted a bit. I remember Pastor Honey said this to me, and I've said this publicly. Pastor Honey said this to me: you have to decide if you want to serve God or if you want to be rich, right? Mm. So I had to understand that. I said, what does that even mean? So I had to make a choice, and I couldn't grasp that. I couldn't grasp that concept. And I said, I want both. I want to be able to serve the kingdom and be a blessing to the kingdom. So I think some people struggle with that, you know, and I think it's if you struggle with that, it's a personal thing, conviction that you have to work through, but it's also some bad theology that's out there that's saying the only way you can get to heaven, you have to be poor. Now we could talk about that, what that really means, but when you have that mindset, it's very challenging. Yeah. So, you know, So my pastors and leaders, you could definitely do more. You have a lot more skill set than you think you do. And now in this season, I've pivoted a lot to really working with small business owners, business leaders. It's my goal is to create a culture in your company that it will generate the results that you need. And
what about churches and nonprofits?
Oh, no, I work with them as well. I definitely work with them as well. But here's the thing. If I'm honest.
Yeah, they don't always have the mindset.
They don't always have the mindset. And a pastor has to be ready.
Yeah.
A pastor has to be ready. Because I remember when I was so on fire, God gave me this blueprint and I went to pastors. And respectfully, I get it. Because I'm not a senior pastor.
Well, also, too, the reality is that pastors are on the edge.
Yeah.
Pastors are on the edge. I'm talking about they're 1 week away from resigning.
Yeah.
Because running the church right now, post-COVID,
it's stressful.
It's they don't even know how they're going to pay their mortgage.
And I get it. And trust me, I was just speaking with some other pastors, and listen, I have compassion, and I'm here to help. I'm here to help.
But they have to want to logistically think through.
Yeah.
Because sometimes they're doing too much.
Yeah.
And I think with your applied engineering, right? Because I think that's what you're bringing to the table.
Correct.
You're helping them think through, because they can only do so many things, and it's like with volunteers and deacons and even the business people. But I think they're trying to keep up with the Christ fellowships and the big churches that took. Sometimes you look at a mega church that emerges in 20, 30 years, but it actually was the previous pastor who laid the financial endowment, property, land foundation, which then allows
and building a shoulder for us.
Which allowed them to then suddenly you thought they just emerged because they went on TBN, but it's like, what's his name, Joel Osteen. I mean, Joel Osteen's dad laid the structure.
Even Mike Todd.
Yeah.
Mike Todd honors his pastor all the time. His pastor, who gave him the church, as they say. Yeah. He had a very strong foundation. Yeah. So listen, you have some stories like a Gateway, where it started in his garage. Yeah. Right. You had Life. I think it's Gateway or Life. I think it's Life Church. Life Church, who started his garage and grew, or the pastor from Saddleback, who recently retired. So you have those stories, and I think those are, truly unicorn type stories that God had a special grace. But the average person, just like when Elisha was saying that he thought he was the only prophet. And Jesus had to check him and say, hey, there's thousands of prophets who have never bowed their knee to Baal, right? So what does that tell me? There's thousands of pastors that you've never heard of who are being faithful. So you can't always compare yourself to Elijah. You just have to be content. And that's one thing about coaching. You have to be content. And I tie it in sometimes with the parable of the talent. God may have only given you one. God may have only given you 4. God may have only given you 5. Understand where you are. Your height may be 500. And you must celebrate. I'm speaking to myself now. Yeah. You may be only that 500 pastor. You may be only that CEO over 500. You may never be a Fortune 100.
There's joy in that, though.
But there's joy in it. And I think we have to redefine what success is for us. And that's what I help as a coach. Wow. Help you redefine what success is for you. Wow. So that you can reach your goals, and tell you, don't look left or right. Put your spiritual blinders on. Yeah. Look at what God has given you. Amen. Look at the tools that He's given you to be successful. Because if you look left or right, just like Peter, he's gonna fall and sink. Don't fall and sink on the success that God has ordained for you, because you're looking for something that was never yours in the first place. Wow. So,
man, this is a preach.
Yeah.
Preach, man. Man, well, thank you, man. Let me pray. Father, thank you for my brother, and for his wisdom, his experiences. Lord, there's so much to learn from him. I'm looking forward to more conversations, and I'm looking forward to hear the feedback of how this conversation, his voice, his insights, his trials, his journey through college life and marriage life and fatherhood and pastoring and being an engineer and now shaping individuals who are in critical positions of leadership, servant leadership, and the way he comes alongside and helps them reimagine, rethink, and revive their culture, the atmosphere. And God, it's taken me so many years to realize the importance of mentors and coaches and friends and colleagues that bring something to you and have a strength that you need. So continue to bless him, continue to connect him, and use this conversation to make the introduction with the next group of people, batch of people that he is called to serve and to empower. Bless him now, bless his family, bless his children, and bless everything that he does in Jesus' name. Amen.
Amen.
All right. Thank you, brother.
Thank you.
Welcome to the Jackpot Medium Podcast, where we dive deep into life, embracing the contrast. From culture to faith, art to finances, politics and everything in between, we're taking chances. Jackpot Medium Podcast, we shine a light, exploring all the life from day to night. Nothing is off the table, we keep it real. Diverse perspectives, the truth we reveal.